talk about, people have questions about transitions. Everyone's transition is different. So what makes a transition easier or harder? Like when you get back home to heaven, do you look and say, oh, it's easier to die in your sleep? Or does everyone see a light? Is it easier to see a light? Or is the transition important?
When you first started asking the question, Griffin was making fun. Imagine that.
Okay.
And saying, you were comparing, is it easier because of the type of death, right? In the sleep or,
Right.
more difficult. He immediately was picking on if you were a difficult person, like a jerk.
Right.
Someone mean.
Right.
Or if you were easygoing personality. That's where he lays his kind of measurements if you're asking to have it measured. But he's like, but Mom, there are times where, let's say, if you're a real jerk or you're a mean person, or you're having a difficulty understanding death and you're nervous and you have anxieties about dying and where you're going to go and it's scary as anything else, having a traumatic passing sometimes can give you that ease because you're so wrapped up in the act of dying of itself that the transition happens without you fretting over it, without you wrestling it.
Right.
And when that happens, all of a sudden there's a shock factor of, it's done, I'm here, I don't know what's going on. I can't use my control, I can't use my humor, I can't use my sass or anger or anything like that to navigate where I am. And so you kind of turn off. Not off like your light goes out, like your meanness shuts up. You get to the core of who you are and you're vulnerable. So in those ways, a traumatic passing for somebody who is having those beliefs or that kind of life makes it easier to die.
Right.
Makes the death, transition, and arriving much easier to comprehend, understand.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some who, happy life, understanding, accept death, they go to sleep, they die, it's amazing, right? Then there's some who don't really have a belief in it, don't really believe that they're ever really going to die, and maybe are nervous about it, but don't have any other things tied up in it, and so they go to sleep, they die, and it feels like they're in a dream. And they're still their human selves, and they're walking, they have hands, and they see everything, and they're like, oh, this is interesting, I'm in a dream. And then they start recognizing this is more than a dream, It's actually death, and by then it's already happened, so they can't just blow up and try to control it. And you just gave me a really funny image of a cat trying to climb a waterfall. That's not happening. And then the cat's clawing the water's coming at him. It's some people fight it so hard. It's a little entertaining. Sometimes it requires some popcorn and Coca-Cola on ISIN so we can watch. Please tell me that's not true. Please tell me, even if it's not true, tell me it's not true. He goes, Jamie, there are sometimes you just gotta watch. He's like, it's like a car wreck. Sometimes you just see somebody just flailing. You can't help. It's not your job. It's not your responsibility. They're gonna make it. And he goes, you just gotta stop and observe. So you can see it when somebody dies, like on Earth, and making a transition. He said, yeah. It's kind of like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. He's talking about 1950s comic books where they design this room where it's stadium seating and there's glass in front of them and there's a study going on in the center and you're up in the stadium seating looking down. Yeah, so it's like a 360 movie, and you can connect to those spirits who are leaving life and coming over. There are spirits in place, Mom, who send vibrations towards people who are dying. Some people call them angels, where you feel like the room is getting full right before somebody is dying.
Right. Like grandma had that. Both your grandmas had that. They saw you and then they saw other people. But when I asked you what you said to them, you just said, "Hi, grandma, what's up?" Like you don't tell them they're dying, right? You just let them know you're there. Like you don't interfere with the process.
He's like, no, I'm not going to interfere. He's like, I'm not going to come in with a big sign.
You're dying.
Like, this is your death.
Go this way. Yeah.
And show the sign everywhere. Because no, they're going to quickly figure it out when everybody in the room is everybody who's not alive.
Right? That was Grandma Eileen. Like she saw you and her mom first, and then she said the room was full. And she was atheist.
Full. He's like, there are spirits that show up to give healing and love and vibrations to those who are passing. And because there's that kind of like work on our side, there is an opportunity to observe the work. So I can be in a remote place, but observe the entities giving love and vibration to the person and observing the person crossing. Because it's not invasive or anything. And my observation is not. He looks at me and he goes, Jamie, he's like trying to stop my head from running. It's not just for entertainment value, Jamie. I'm not that kind of guy. Sometimes, but not always. It's not for that.
Right.
He says, but, you know, it's to connect and to help that person make a transition.
Right.
Every thought matters. You know, every smile, every bit of laughter on our end, it really matters. You can feel it move. When you're alive, man, you're not feeling the flaps of a butterfly wing. He's like, you're not hearing the bird chirp on the other side of the planet. Here we can. We sense and feel all of it. And it's not overwhelming at all. It's just the way our bodies function. It's not overwhelming at all. I don't want people to think they're not interested in dying because they don't want to feel everything. That's not it.
Right.
So in transition, it's so completely different for everybody. And sometimes the way that I've seen it, that I've observed, is that, well, I think that people have certain deaths, and those deaths are created from the lifestyle they had. Not kidding. Like the act of dying is kind of like the last lesson. You know, for those cocky, I know what you're saying, overly confident people, cocky people, who always do everything on their own, and, you know, and he says, and all of a sudden they get dementia, they get Alzheimer's, and they can't do anything. They can't even, you know, comb their hair, put their shirt on, pee by themselves for like 2 years.
Right.
And he's like, for me, observing that, that's like the last lesson. They got to feel, you know, being humble.
Oh, yeah.
Humility. Asking for help. They spent a whole lifetime not doing it.
Right.
And now they got to ask for help every second of the day.
Right. Like my friend took care of someone that invented the EKG machine, and he had Alzheimer's, and he's still alive, but exactly what Griffen says playing out, like he can't brush his teeth by himself. You know what I mean? Like a guy who invented the EKG. You know what I mean? Like that's such a contrast.
Yeah. And he goes, and I know there's going to be listeners saying, well, but my mom had it and she was the nicest person ever and she gave. Yeah. But did she ever ask for help?
Right.
You know, did she ever look at you and go, I've given you everything. Can you give me something now? No. So Alzheimer's, you know, any kind of debilitating illness, disease helps people receive help and kind of cure or make that balance in life. What's that?
Why would someone who gives, why would their lesson, why would it be getting dementia? It's fucked up.
Because in the process of it, they get to receive help from other people, which is something that they wouldn't allow other people to do for them their entire life because they were in the role of doing the help, giving it. Now it's time to receive it.
But they didn't ask for themselves, so they needed that lesson of asking.
There's a really cool, like, You come up with the word. Underbelly? All right. Underbelly. Balance in life. You know, we go throughout our whole lives and we use our eyes and our five senses, and we're constantly gauging if we're doing something right or wrong, if we're being good or not. But I think the underbelly is really about the emotional balance. You know, have we stirred up the anger within us and given out equal amounts of love? And he says we can look at it in a very scientific way and measure the vibrational quality of what emotions have. And this is totally, he's pushing up his sleeves even though he doesn't really have sleeves to push up.
Right.
You know, like if they're like this.
Right. Right.
This is totally my theory. He leans back. This is my theory. If we can measure somebody's emotional vibration from birth into end, we would find if we kind of add them and got the means that it would be absolutely balanced and equal high to equal low. I don't think it's about what we do and think and behave or give or receive. I think it's all based on emotions. Like that was a bit of stuttering. We're in the pyramids and we're looking at hieroglyphics. Oh, boy, I don't know what you're saying, but I'm in it. There were hieroglyphics found that when you died, the heart was weighed, and if the heart weighed more or less than a certain object or gold, then you were deemed good enough to cross the river to go into the beyond.
Mm-hmm.
And he says the Egyptians had it. It was the heart that was so valuable, the emotions, not the technology, not the head, not the knowing. And somewhere in these centuries, we just flipped the switch and went all haywire. You're done? All right, he's done.
I love that analogy. I love that analogy, don't you?
Mhm.
So cool. Wow, that's deep.
Unexpected. I liked that.
Right?